you think this is a hellhound? I said, are you familiar with a hellhound? He's like, yeah, I'm familiar with hellhounds. He said, this ain't no hellhound because it stood up in his driveway. And he said, as he got closer and closer to it, it just disappeared. So why do I tell you that story? I'll tell you why I'm telling you that story, my friend. And there have been a number of stories where people have seen these manifestations of dogmen or dog-like creatures that disappear. I go back to another one before I go into the point I'm making.
Okay.
There was one that a man called and told me, oh, my goodness. Was it his son? Yes, it was his son. Him and his son are in the house. And imagine you're in your den. I'm walking so I could. Okay, so imagine you're in your den and you're sitting on your sofa. In front of you is your TV. To the left of you is a doorway that leads out into your backyard, right? And if you open that doorway and you kind of lean back a little bit, you can see all the way clear across your backyard out into the tree line. So he's sitting on the sofa. His son is outside playing, running around in the yard. As he's sitting on the sofa, he hears his son throwing the ball up and down, giggling, laughing, being a kid, kicking the ball, doing whatever he does. Then he starts to hear this growling sound, like dog growling. But the way he described it was like the biggest dog he'd ever heard in his life outside growling. So naturally, he leans back and looks, and he sees something in the tree line. Now, his son is completely oblivious to this. He's just running around playing like a kid would normally do. He hops up, runs outside, grabs his son, and he gets a glimpse at what he sees is a big black dog on all fours, not on all twos, but on all fours, with its head kind of protruding out of the trees. So he grabs his son, runs back inside, comes inside, slams the door. Now him and his son are inside, and he starts to feel the house shake a little bit, and then the door starts to creak. And as the door is creaking, it's a wooden door. As like if someone was to press on the wood of the door, it makes that noise like it's straining.
Yeah.
And then he starts to see the snout and the muzzle of this gigantic dog actually coming through the door. Not breaking the door, but physically coming through the door. And he sees these red eyes, and then he starts to pray. And his son takes off running down the hallway into the bathroom. He starts to pray, and as he's praying, that snout and those eyes, those red, and this is broad daylight. This ain't like at nighttime. That snout and those eyes start going back through that door and back out. So, pause right there. Let me tell you why I'm telling you these stories, because I think I'm starting to notice a trend when it comes to some of the stuff. I think there is a spiritual aspect to the whole dogman phenomenon. Not saying that it's a spiritual being, but I believe that something has manifested itself to look like these creatures and terrorize people. Now, the natural dogman, which is the one that Linda Godfrey talked about, the Michigan dogman, which has clearly been documented multiple times with prints and howls and all kind of stuff. I don't think anybody's ever got a good picture of this, but there's been so many eyewitness accounts of that creature that there's no way you could say, oh, dogman doesn't exist unless you're just ignorant, right? But I think there's something else more nefarious manifesting itself as dogman or as this gigantic wolf-like creature. And those encounters are equally as terrifying as the physical dogman encounters that people are having. Where do I think it comes from? The more and more I research it, the more and more I study, I really believe that this is some kind of demonic entities that are manifesting themselves to create this appearance. Because, and let me support that argument with this. And I'll ask you a question. Have you ever noticed how fanatical people are about the topic of dogman? Have you ever noticed that?
Yeah, actually, I've had some guests on the show that actually are terrified. There was one lady I had on the show that said that she ran into one at her farmhouse, was trying to get in through her front door. So, and she was just terrified. But again, she started, praying to God, and then it vanished. That's what she said. But
that's not what I necessarily mean by fanatical. When I say fanatical, I mean go like crazy fans about the topic. So what I've experienced with this particular topic is people have this insatiable urge to follow things that are Dogman and know things about Dogman. I mean, I've seen it with my own eyes. I've seen where people argue over this topic where like they're crazy, right? And the more and more I think about it, I'm starting to get to the point to where it's almost like people, there's a spirit of these people kind of is coming over these people where they're worshiping this thing. Not necessarily like, oh my God, we're going to bring you gifts and flowers, but they're just so drawn to this topic. And anybody who's listened to me for a long time will know that I even said this months ago. I think last year I said, man, I'm tired of talking about this topic. People act too crazy about it. What's up, Gary? You all right? I said, I'm too tired about, I'm tired of this topic because I'm tired of people, talking about it. I'm over it. I'm really, really over it. Do I have good Dogman stories? Yes. But I got over the topic because it was just like, why are people so crazy about it? But if it is a manifestation of something spiritual, and it does have a spiritual side to it, and it is demonic, and that may explain why people are so fanatical about it. Because I can't figure out why people are so crazy about this topic. It went from, Linda wrote her book 20 years ago about Dogman, right? Over the past 3 to 4 years, Dogman has become the number 2 cryptid in the world when it comes to people talking about it. Bigfoot still ranks as king, but, Dogman came from obscurity to number 2, and it's challenging the king, which is Bigfoot.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So why is that? And that's the question I have for the listening audience. Think about it. Why is that? I don't have the answer, but that's just my hypothesis or my best guess on it.
I don't know. Maybe they want to believe in it because, there's so many stories about it, Dark Waters, that, this is like black-eyed children. For going back about 6-7 years ago, it was, black-eyed children this, black-eyed children this. And now, you can't pick up a tabloid or anything without seeing Dogman in it, or, and it's like steady now.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I thought, I kind of, part of me still thinks it's because the topic is easily monetized. You put a Dogman video up on YouTube and you're going to get 5,000 views, and you can have no content on your channel but that one story. You're going to get 5,000 views. But I think it's just a little bit more to it than that. But anyway, back to the storytelling.
Okay.
And since we're on the topic of Dogman, let me think of another one that's,
now to some of the new listeners, coming into the paranormal, why don't you explain exactly what Dogman looks like, or supposedly look like, and a little bit about them, and then we'll go into your story.
Okay, that's awesome. That's a good thing. Let's start there. Dogman 101. I give all credit to Linda Godfrey for modern day Dogman documentation. She was the first person to document the Michigan Dogman, put it in the books, and kind of put it out in the mainstream. What has transpired since then is that there have been people having encounters with canine-like creatures that match different descriptions for years now. And when I say for years, I mean years, and multiple descriptions. Some of them say that they look like an overgrown fox, with the exact look, but a humongous fox running through the woods. It moves on all fours, and sometimes it stands up on twos. Some of them say they look like a black timber wolf, standing up on both hind legs. And then there's other Dogman descriptions that are more monstrous, which I still believe falls in line with something that was genetically created. And if you were to look at the werewolves on Underworld, the big black guy that was like in particular on Underworld that transformed into a wolf, that particular look is what's been described to me 3 or 4 times, with a few minor variations. So basically, imagine your worst nightmare in a canine form closing in on you while you're out in the woods, when you're in your car making out with your girlfriend, while you're on the side of the road changing a car tire. That's what people are experiencing. They're experiencing it all over the world, not just in the Northern America, not just in Canada. They've experienced it in South America, in Russia, and in Africa. So we're talking about a worldwide phenomenon that's going on. Now, just a part of 101 and try and surmise it as a whole. Typically, the stories that I tell, and I will take blame for painting Dogman in a negative light in some instances because I tell the scariest stories. So the typical Dogman encounter is, I kind of saw it, it looked at me, I prayed and it went away, or it just decided that it wanted to scare me and it went away. That's the typical Dogman encounter. The more horrific Dogman encounters are where people are actually chased, scratched, bitten, and hurt by Dogman. I've had a number of those encounters where people have shared them with me, especially from southeast Louisiana, like down in the marshes and the bayous. I had a couple of crazy encounters down there. But that's pretty much Dogman 101. My advice to you, if you're out there in the woods, if you're driving on the road and you get a flat tire and you're out in the middle of the night and you're changing your tire on your car, my stern advice to you is if you feel like something or someone is watching you, treat it like something or someone is watching you.
I sure would. I
don't blow it off like, there's nothing out here. If you're changing that tire, get your behind back in the car and keep it moving.
I'm just looking right now on the internet, some of the photos of them, or drawings and all that stuff of them. They look kind of like a werewolf, only even more scarier.
Oh, no, absolutely. And then let's draw the distinction now between, werewolf and Dogman. Werewolf is historically a man who converts or transforms, is the word, into a wolf-like being. When we talk about Dogman, we're talking about not dog, not man, but Dogman, something that is what it is all day long. This is this being's appearance. This is this being's makeup. It is that 24/7. It's not converting to a man and then going to sleep in the bed with his wife that night. It's not climbing out of the window. It's in the woods running around making it happen as this being. So, that's pretty much Dogman 101. I've heard one or two stories on the internet where people say that, a man transformed into a wolf, but nobody's called me with that. So I can't speak on that. You know what I'm saying? Nobody's ever called me with that.
Well, to me, I'd be terrified of one not just chasing me, and as fat as I am, I'm not going to be able to run very fast. But I would be really, really scared if it did catch me, that it'd probably tear me in little teeny pieces. And the way they look, they just look so, demonized, that... I would think the average person, if they're over 40, would probably keel over dead from a heart attack if they even saw one.
No, absolutely. I know I don't want to be caught by one of those things under any circumstances. I really don't. Because the stories that I've heard people share with me and the stories that I've been able to verify are absolutely frightening. Like one of the ones from down here in my neck of the woods, is a family that lives on the bayou, and they actually had a very good relationship with this creature, as much of a relationship as you can have, because their house is out in the marsh on some stilts. And so the husband and wife would sit on their front porch and smoke cigarettes at night and drink coffee. And if I was to paint the picture for you, imagine being up on an elevated porch. Like literally, you could throw a stone into the water right in front of them. They're in the bayou. The house is on the bayou. So you got a waterway that runs right in front of their house. About 55 yards across is dry land. But that waterway goes a little bit further down to the right of you, and it forms a T, and it runs left and right. And then at the other side of that T, which is on the top side of the T, is a levee that protects, their house from hurricanes and storms and bada bing, bada boom, right? So they're sitting out there on their porch, and they would see this thing come running across on the land on the other side from them, at least once or twice a month. It just come running. Big old dog is what they called it. Would just come running across, hop into the water at the T, not in front of their house, at the T, swim across, go up on a levee, and then